Ever since its inception in the late 1900s, Hollywood has gone through multiple eras throughout its history. From the classical to the contemporary era and passing through the golden age, multiple films are illustrative of those eras, being products of their time. So today, we're going to take a look at two films that are reflective of their eras while still having much in common, and not just the fact that they are both of the science fiction genre. Stanley Kubrick's 2001: A Space Odyssey and Christopher Nolan's Interstellar. Both masterpieces in their own right and clear works of their directors. But first, a little bit of history. Kubrick's 2001: A Space Odyssey was made at the height of the Cold War between the United States and the Soviet Union. While the real scientists were trying to find out how to put a man on the moon, Stanley Kubrick wanted to show a much more realistic and accurate depiction of space travel than what was prevalent in shows and movies at that time. On the other hand, Nolan's Interstellar was the idea of producer Linda Obst and theoretical physicist Kip Thorne, with Nolan coming on board due to his want of encouraging spaceflight. So how are these two films illustrative of their respective eras? Kubrick's film is very much the product of the new Hollywood era, at a time when studios were willing to take risks, and a wave of new directors like Steven Spielberg, Martin Scorsese, and Kubrick tried more experimental films that were both critically and commercially successful. Kubrick's style is all over 2001: A Space Odyssey, dispensing with character-centered narratives altogether for a virtually abstract experience. Kubrick allows the film's meaning to be entirely subjective and essentially as a purely visual piece of cinema. With his use of more static shots and minimal editing, he goes for the coldness and loneliness in his depiction of space and going against the usual tropes of the time. Shot on 35mm format, the standard at that time, the film roll reached a length of 5,520 meters for the premiere for a runtime of 2 hours and 41 minutes. Much limitation was present in terms of scientific accuracy due to limited data as well as visual effects, with Kubrick opting for more practical effects such as miniatures. Now comparing that is 2014's Interstellar, which is the very definition of contemporary filmmaking with bombastic sound effects and an avalanche of visual effects. Studios now rely more on pre-established intellectual property with reboots, remakes, sequels, prequels, and franchises. As Langford says, contemporary Hollywood studio is not a producer or even a vendor of products in the traditional sense, but clearinghouses across whose books flows a constant stream of revenues. In simple terms, they just care about money. Still, Nolan's directing style ensures a message of hope is maintained as he weds traditional spectacular elements to the eye-popping special effects that are the norm of contemporary Hollywood, with much inspiration from Kubrick's work itself. As film critic Chris Stuckman says,
"The space sequences were just mind-blowing, some truly epic stuff going on. Definitely a lot of inspiration from 2001: A Space Odyssey in there."
Shot on two different formats, namely traditional rolls of 35mm and 70mm, which has larger frames, some scenes were also shot with digital 35mm, which imitates the look but without the roll. Scenes were also shot in digital IMAX, which are much heavier to operate on set. This has led to a film roll length of 17,114.9 meters for the IMAX 70mm projection, that is 49 reels. Despite this, both films transcend their respective eras due to their timeless themes and content as a whole, their directors having ensured to depict space as realistic as possible. They don't just illustrate their eras, but the best of what Hollywood can produce.